from nothing. Even worse, hurt with the house on fire and with a horde of zombies outside. A legend was born. Not only he survived the worst start ever, he managed to defeat the insane horde summoned by the helicopter. Then he cleared the north part of Muldraugh and claimed the motel next to the gas station. That became the strongest and most powerful base ever built in CDDA Challenge, featuring a well-furnished bedroom office with a broad collection of books and an oven for the winter days. A relax area with all junk food, a portable fridge only for the beers, and a grill. Also, this base has a room for every type of item ranging from clothing to tools and food. But that is not all. There is even a restaurant area if our hero manages in the future to rescue some survivors. Without speaking the fleet of working vehicle, he managed to start. But this achievement had a tall cost. 40 kilograms and his sanity to kill 4,000 zombies. Well, put it this way, 1 kilogram lost per 100 zombie kills is better than going to the gym. Anyway, this CDDA run started from the classical trait selection menu. The most impactful change Build 42 brings to the table are basements and darkness during the night. Considering that CDDA Challenge start with electricity off and that basements has the best early game loot. The first pick was obviously Cat Eyes. Is relatively cheap and can help a lot. Next, considering that my plan after surviving is to collect every single useful item, I will spend a lot of time looting. So to waste less time on that, the second trait to pick was Dexterous. This for sure will allow me to save a lot of time I can spend killing more zombies. For all of the loot I will need a lot of storage. To increase it by almost 30%, the next trait to pick is obviously Organized. By the way, this increases also the backpack limits, and considering that they reduce the actual weight is a huge deal. Just keep in mind that a military backpack instead of classical 28 capacity, with this trait can store 36 instead. Next on my shopping list is Fast Learner. This is one of the best traits ever. Considering that after Build 42, you have a whopping 35 skills to level up. With this trait, you have a 30% boost in all of them. For the last good trait, we have the most important one. I speak about the Strong trait. This is the most important trait to take for two good reasons. The first, that it helps to knock down zombies, allowing you to finish them safely with melee weapons or even using your feet. And oh boy, if you look at the preferred weapon for 4,000 kill count, you will see that in order to survive I was forced to stomp a lot of brains. The second good reason to pick being strong from the beginning is that it gives you 4 points of strength that increases the weight capacity by 8 points. Considering that in Build 42 now keys have weight, plus there are a lot of new stackable protective gear. Once you are maxed out and equip everything with no items in your backpack, you will use already around 18 points in gear alone. Every good thing has a price to pay. So it's time to speak about negative traits I had to pick in order to have these boosts. The first and most rewarding is Thin-Skinned. This is a high-risk, high-reward trait. But believe me if I tell you that 1,000 hours of experience in Project Zomboid teach you a lot of tricks to avoid being touched in the first place. Plus, I plan to obtain the best protective gear in case someone will be able to sneak on me. For the same reason, I also always pick Slow Healer. Plus, slower you heal, more first aid experience you will be able to get from each injury. That, for someone with my experience in hits avoidance, is actually a good trait to have. The next easy pick on my list is Weak Stomach, mainly because I never risk eating raw or potentially poisonous food, even if it means starving to death. Zombies alone are already a tough opponent. I don't want to deal with food and water poison as well. The last negative trait I'm willing to take is Slow Reader, mainly because with the huge fights I will have each day, I will sit recovering breath a lot of time between zombie kills. And let me tell you something, with the insane population in the CDDA challenge, even with Slow Reader I will finish all of my books before I manage to kill all of the zombies. I will have to fight to free each building. Day 1 started from tending to my wound. First I removed the glass using my bare hands. Next, I needed to move away from the fire, but the way was blocked by a table. Therefore, I picked it up, only to get rid of it by placing it inside the bookshelf. Inside that shelf, I found a black marker that I value more than my life, considering that I need to mark each location I explore to feel good. The rest was not of a priority right now, so I moved to the windows in order to take off the 2 curtains before the first group of zombies broke in, forcing me to move out through the fire that just blocked my way out. Luckily, I was fast enough to not get a burn. To avoid being followed, I closed the door on my way out. Because of fire, it didn't last much, but gained me precious ground to reach the forest. Instead of going to the farm, as many do in the CDDA Challenge, I decided to head to the fence to the right. Here I was somewhat safe to rip one of the sheet into makeshift bandages, one of which I immediately used to close off my deep wound and stop the bleeding, while I converted the other sheet into a sling bag introduced in the Build 42. This bad boy is a handy backpack that has a whopping 15 capacity with the organized trait and a decent 60 encumbrance reduction. After equipping it, I noticed the first zombie approaching the bottom fence. After she tripped over, I started stomping her head. It took 4 hits to kill her with my naked and soft feet. Plus now a pain debuff is applied to them because of that. Luckily she had a pair of sneakers. Beside those I also got a pair of socks and a t-shirt. But it was not enough to fight the cold that will start soon enough. My sneezing started already attracting more Zeds to my location. But I was ready for all of them. While waiting along the fence, another zombie approached from the left tree line. He had the best early item anyone needs, a digital watch, plus a pair of long socks that are way better for fighting cold. The second zombie had no useful loot on him. Next two was too close to each other. In fact, I was able to attack the first, but he didn't die. So my second attack didn't stop the second one from attacking me. To my surprise, I didn't get even a scratch from this. After getting back on my feet, I pushed them back down to only finish them off the traditional way. Before I was able to loot them, another came to the slaughter fence. Finally, I was able to loot in peace. This fight yielded me a tank top in decent condition, a t-shirt in perfect condition, and a pair of almost destroyed denim shorts. A few seconds after, another victim came to my aid, bringing me a better shorts version. Also, double-checking the previous corpses, I noticed that one of them had a better pair of shoes than my sneakers. A few minutes after, another zombie brought me some loot. This time, finally a pair of decent jeans, while after that, the next zombie had nothing of interest. I wasn't hearing or seeing any other enemy close enough to approach the fence. So I jumped over and reached the house. I pushed the zombie banging on the window and took his tank top, that was in better condition than mine. After that, I got inside the house. In the bedroom, I found another item introduced in Build 42, a pillow. It will help later on for a boost for tiredness recovery while sleeping. Next, I checked the bookshelf that had nothing good. Then the kitchen. Here I found a cooking pot with some rotten rice, so I can store water inside that I can drink. As soon as I was done, a zombie got inside through the window and I wasn't able to one-shot him with a stomp. So I had to push down the other one on fire approaching before finishing the first. Then I pushed away the one on fire before heading inside the bathroom. Last thing I need right now is taking a burn injury. Inside the bathroom, I found some sleeping pills that will come in handy to sleep the first day considering the pain from the wound. After that, I took off the sheets from the window and left the building. The zombie I was avoiding predicted my move and used the opened window and perfectly timed a grab on me. But no injury taken again. After getting up, I decided to head back to the fence to fight the zombie on fire, as safe as possible. Also, I was lucky enough to move away before the ground I was standing on caught on fire. At this point, I was ready for the second round at the house. I had to deal with the group inside before heading to the next location, mainly to prevent them from spreading the fire. 2 of them noticed me and got through the window. This rewarded me with a cowboy hat. Next, I tried to whisper to the 2 banging on the bathroom door, but they were more interested in that door. So I decided to spare them for now, and checked the situation in front of the house instead. A group of 3 noticed me immediately, and I heard the bathroom door breaking. So I went back to deal with those two, then went back inside the house, where I feel safer from the fire, thanks to the burned ground. This was a good moment to empty the cooking pot from the rotten rice. And checking the bed drawer, I was pleased to find a hoodie in perfect condition that will definitely helps against the cold. Then I noticed that the bath wasn't burned down, so I used it to fill up my empty pot with water. Next, inside the kids' room, I found a formal shirt in perfect condition to wear. Plus, I took a spare pair from the bed. After double-checking everything, it was time to move to the next building. On my way there, I was attacked only by one zombie on fire. I guess the rest burned out already. The next building had a military vibe, and in the oven I found an empty pan I can use to store water or cook a meal. Before I was able to check the drawers, a Zed guarding the place went for a losing fight. He had nothing to share. Back to the drawers, I got a garbage bag I can use to build rain catchers in the future. Immediately after, I heard someone climbing through the window. I was quick enough to push him down with a stomp and finish the job with my shoes. This one finally had a tank top in perfect condition for me. The next moment, I was dealing with another unwelcomed visitor that has nothing to offer. Also, no loot was to be found in the bathroom. While in the crate next to the bed, I was pleased to find some skill books that I can read while resting between the fights. This house was done, but there was trouble knocking on the door. After noticing a zombie with a backpack, I was glad to let them inside for a friendly chat. Beside the small backpack that offered 3 extra capacity compared to the sling, and 10 bonus encumbrance reduction. I also found that it had a snack inside I can chew on later. After transferred my loot in the new backpack, I equipped it and dealt with another guest that joined the party from the window. Now that we had a decent backpack, was time to convert the sling back into a sheet. Immediately after I left the house, I noticed another group of Zeds along the pathway. Step by step I went closer until I got a reaction from 2 of them. To avoid aggro more, I backed to the house walls and baited them to the side window I opened before. Once I was sure they will see me get inside, I finally climbed through the window. Seconds after, I defeated both of them. After that, I went back out, only to find out that there was no more than 1 extra to deal with. Next, I went inside the other house. Immediately to the left from the entrance, there was a zombie enjoying a closed curtain. Sad I had to disrupt his peace emptying his brain juice. The noise made the neighbor check on his friend. So I let him inside. This way they can both rest in peace together. 2 more was eager to join. I guess the second was jealous, considering how he pushed me back. So I decided to argue with him through the window. He accepted his fate and let himself go and unite with his friends. After this curious encounter, someone started to knock on the back door. I guess he didn't like the noise and wanted to check what's going on. So my boots show him that there is nothing to see if you have no eyes. Seconds after, 2 ladies decided to join this home theater, but the electricity is off, so I showed both of them my boots instead. Another made the same mistake, but the last one decided to knock on the door instead. Good choice, considering I had a visitor from the front window as well. After dealing with this one, I needed to rest a little. So I sat on the chair and contemplated the mess I just made in my new home. But this is CDDA for you, you can't rest until all of them are dead. Hoping to use the window to deal with those 2, I made a bad turn toward another zombie waiting outside. I'm too tired to deal with 3 of them at the same time, so I retreated to the previous building. After closing the door behind me, I started whispering from the window, hoping to separate the group. I was pleased to see my plan working, considering that 2 of them took the bait and meet their demise. Finally, I opened the door and dealt with the last one. I still needed to rest, but I can't do it inside now because of the corpse's stink. So I took the chair and placed it outside. This way, I can rest without risking to catch the corpse sickness. But before I was able to use it, another group was quickly approaching. Because my character wasn't smart enough to close the right door, I was forced to flee through the window. But in the panic, I closed it instead of climbing through. To my surprise, the Zed didn't try to grab me. Instead, he was banging on the bathroom door. I guess he ate too much raw meat that he can't hold it anymore. This gave me the time to deal with his friend before finishing the dumb one. Finally, after all of this fighting, I was able to rest a little while reading a few pages of Foraging Level 1. In 1 hour, I was able to read 21 pages. That is how fast I read in real life. Guess I'm a slow reader after all, and discovering this in a game is shocking. It was getting too late, and I needed a safe place to sleep. So I went back to the party house. On my way there, hiding behind the trees, I met my next victim. Then I searched the garbage to the left from the house. The only useful thing inside was a garbage bag, but before looting it, I needed to remove the rotten lemon bar from within. Immediately after, I went inside and waited behind the safety of the window for the fast-approaching Zed. After dealing with this last one, it felt safe to finally check the loot on that zombies. The main price for my troubles was a key ring. Before I was able to finish looting, another unwelcomed guest got through the window. But I expected it to be the last one. So, after removing the curtain from the windows, I decided to check what goodies was waiting for me upstairs. The first thing that caught my eye was another curtain. While in the bathroom, there was nothing useful. A similar situation was in the bedroom. But what I expected to find on this difficulty is already great. That I was able to secure this place. I will find more stuff later. Anyway, it was not time to relax because I heard another zombie entering inside. So I went to meet him at the window. Sheds usually can hold some good weapons, so I went to check the one close to the house. Unfortunately, there was just a plank and a pair of pliers. And no, I won't use a plank as a weapon. It drains too much stamina. That is the fastest way to die. Not far from the shed, I also spotted a brain dead. So I went for the kill. Never take chances before going to bed. In particular, if you want to survive long enough to tell the tale. After that, it was official. For the time being, this humble house will be my first base before I can find something better. Before going to bed, I decided to check the next house before it burns down. Thanks to the cat eye trait, I was able to spot a zombie inside and baited him to the window for an easy kill. But the noise attracted another one from the main road. After defeating him, my nightmare come back to hunt me again. Zombies on fire! I can't allow them to burn down my base, so I had to fight them. Carefully to avoid standing on burning tiles, I was able to deal with them. But despite I was eager to explore the house, I can't see a thing. So I tried my luck across the road. This building seems untouched and I don't hear zombie noises, so I decided to risk it. To my delight, a granola bar was waiting in the cupboard to be looted. While the other one had an empty bowl, I can use it to make salads and pick soup portions. Next in a box, I spotted the magazine that teaches the best recipe of Build 42. How to make a pizza. To finish, I even found some worm clothes. A lumberjack shirt, long John's bottoms, and even a better long-sleeve t-shirt. I also noticed that thanks to all of the clothing I already found, the nasty cold was already gone. But my dreams of Muldraff conquest was interrupted by someone knocking on the door. To my horror, actually 4 Zeds was waiting for me outside. I was tired and exhausted to fight them all in the middle of the night. So I tried to lose as many as I can along the tree line, circled behind the house and went to the windows. I killed the fastest one that went inside, but was not brave enough to keep fighting without a light source. So hiding inside the bedroom was the best option at this point. But before I can sleep, I need to calm the pain from the deep wound. So I took a sleeping pill, then placed down the pillow and left myself in hands of Morpheus in the hopes that tomorrow will be a better day. Day 2 started from waking up too early, so I ripped some of my spare clothes into sheets that I can use as bandages later. Then I moved all of my items into the shelf, keeping just the essentials I will need for the day. Then, despite I hate wasting time in the CDDA challenge, I can't safely fight in the dark without a flashlight. So I just fast forward to 5 AM. First thing in the morning, I checked around the base for the 3 zombies I was fleeing from yesterday. While circling around the house, one of them went inside the house and jumped through the window to reach me. I was almost certain he didn't initialize the grab attack, but I was wrong. In fact, as soon as I turned around the corner, I got hit. Luckily, I managed to not take damage from this. Then I baited him to the next window that I used to easily dispose of this troublemaker. To my surprise, he had a juicy beef jerky to share, plus a belt. Finally, I can hold weapons on it, if actually I find any. The same Zed had also a pair of work boots that not only have 100% bite and scratch protection, but also offers a massive boost in insulation needed for the winter. Anyway, I didn't know where the other two zombies went, so I decided to double-check the house where I met them yesterday. But a larger group was waiting for me near the burned house. With no weapons, my only hope was to risk it and fight inside the looted house. So I went there and opened the window for them. While waiting for them, I read a few pages of the foraging level 1. But a few moments after, the fastest one came inside, only to be killed by my mighty boots. The next two was too close. In fact, despite I managed to kill the first one, it took 2 stomps. Therefore, the second pushed me away. After a little bit of struggle, I was able to deal with this one as well, while the last one of the group lost interest in the pursuit. I found him just chilling near the other house. Finally, it was somewhat safe to loot the burned house. On first floor, all furniture was destroyed, but at least the salt on the ground didn't disappear. From the looks of it, the basement had a lot of crates, but unfortunately they were all burned down. You are never safe to loot in CDDA Challenge. In fact, while leaving the basement, another zombie came inside. After dealing with him, I noticed that a cupboard survived the fire and a bottle opener was inside. Will be handy when I will get my hands on some bottles to open. Second floor also was in the same state, but I still found a marmalade jam on the ground. Some bleach I can use when I would want to clean something, plus a good literature to fight bad mood. After that, this house was cleared. Next, hiding behind the trees close to the road, I stumbled upon a group of 3. Using the fence to my advantage, I took them one by one. Checking the surrounding, I noticed a few buildings to loot. But my attention shifted to the 2 wrecked cars on the edge of the crossroad. The first one was unlocked, but nothing was of my interest on the seats and the glove box. On the other hand, in the trunk, there was a screwdriver I can use to disassemble furniture and electrical devices. A rope I will need for carrying logs, plus a garbage bag for rain catchers. The second car was locked, and despite I still didn't possess any weapon that I can use to safely break the windows, I risked it and used my elbow instead. Luckily, I didn't get hurt in the process. After unlocking the trunk, I found a cigar on the seat for special occasions. But the best loot was hiding in the glove box. Finally, a flashlight, a spare battery, a red pen, an adhesive bandage for emergencies, and even some twine required in many crafting recipes. After looting this treasure, a zombie approached the car. It was too close, so I switched sits and get out from the other side, so I can deal with the troublemaker using the fence. Then I checked the car trunk and finally found a ratchet wrench I can use as a weapon, plus a garbage bag for the bright future plans. After that, I dealt with a zombie that heard me opening the trunk. Finally, it was time to equip my belt and attach the new weapon I just laid hands on. Then checked the house to the right. Once I saw the boards on the windows, I knew that this is the best chance I had of surviving the helicopter event without actually being forced out. Plus, boarded windows means that it's a survivor house. They always hold a lot of good loot, often worth almost a dozen of houses you can check in CDDA. Inside, there are always zombies, so I made some noise in order for them to start breaking the barricades from inside. Next, before they come out, I needed to clear the perimeter. The noise I made banging on the barricades was enough to call them to me. First, I was reached by the too fast one, followed by an average walking one. This had another belt for me to collect. Despite I have already a belt, I never say no for more, mainly because I can convert them into leather strips. Plus, it had a pair of great boots. Then I wanted to fight the 2 approaching enemies, but changed my mind as soon as I saw another 2 emerging from the forest. So I got close enough to one of them in order to trigger the chase animation. Then I went behind the building, hoping to lose a few on the barricades. After dealing with the chaser, I was glad to see that some was interested in barricades, considering that only one came after me. But this made things worse because the last plank snapped, allowing the zombies inside the house to get out as well. To my delight, the two inside was fast. This allowed me to defeat them separately. The next 4 was walking at different speeds. This helped a lot to isolate them and kill them one by one. While checking the corpses, another one came from behind the house. Beside all this trouble, the zombies had no useful loot. After double-checking the house perimeter and finding another enemy to deal with, finally was time to get inside and see what treasure I stumbled upon. Using the just obtained wrench, I removed the broken glass from the only way in and climbed inside. The first shelf already was looking promising. Despite in worn condition, it had an iron pipe I can use as my main weapon for the time being. A schematic to make a garden fork head, a broken long handle and an empty bucket. While inside the clothing dryer, there was some spare clothing in perfect condition. Next, in the first kitchen shelf I found a fruit juice. Then, before checking the rest, I needed to deal with a zombie breaking an upstairs door. It was pitch black up there, but luckily I already had a torch. This allowed me to find out that the problem was a closed curtain. Opening it lit up the surrounding. Was time to check the rooms. Bathroom was clear. In the bedroom I found one zombie, while in the clothes storage, a couple was probably banging for the last time before turning. After dealing with them, in the clothing room I found some spare shirts in perfect condition. Nothing useful in the bedroom. While in the bathroom, beside some garbage, I found a plunger I can use as a weapon and a mouse trap if I need emergency food. Plus some more sleeping pills in the cabinet. I moved out all of the garbage and deposited it in one of the corpses. Next, I deposited all of the spare clothes I collected so far in the clothing racks. After that, I was eager to check out the basement of this place. But instead of loot, I found a zombie that was trying to sneak on me instead. Disappointed in it, I went back to the ground floor and checked the bookshelf. The best item inside was a magazine that teaches how to make metal sheet and cut it down into 4 small metal sheets. After depositing my literature inside that shelf, was time to check the last hope I had for this place. The kitchen cupboards. This allowed me to find another lead pipe, 2 more schematics, and a small knife in the first. A box of sparklers I can use for crafting and an empty bowl for my veggies and soups. Plus 2 more mouse traps and a recipe that teaches how to prepare an onigiri. In the third I found a dented unlabeled can of food. Plus a recipe to prepare delicious biscuits. While in the last cupboard there was 2 knives, a milk chocolate bar, another schematic, and some yeast. I told before that survivor houses usually has 10 times the loot of a regular house. Well, this is CDDA for you. This is actually what you can expect from looting 10 houses with rare loot. Then next 30 minutes I spent moving the Zed's corpses on the first floor down to the basement. Exhausted from that, I spent the next 2 hours reading some pages of foraging level 1 to recover my breath. It stopped after 6 PM because there was not enough light to keep reading. Minor inconvenience introduced with Build 42. Well, I went upstairs, moved the chair to the roof outside my bedroom, and kept reading for 2 more hours until the dark actually kicked in. To pass the time and avoid going to sleep too early, I decided to reorganize the loot in the base. First, I removed all items not related to first aid from the bathroom. Moved all the schematics and books in the bookshelf, beside the foraging level 1 I was reading. Reorganized the kitchen cupboards by placing cleaning substances, garbage bags, rope, and twine in the first cupboard. Bottle opener and all the bottles including the empty one in the second. Canned food in the third, kitchen utensils in the oven, cooking ingredients in the next cupboard, while actual food I can eat in the fridge. To finish in the bedroom left cabinet, I placed some useful junk, while in the left side my spear weapons. Finally, after marking this building as my new safe house, it was time to finish the second day with a good comfy sleep. Day 3 started by waking up after 11 AM. After leaving the safety of my new base, I decided to go back to the house I used as my shelter for the first day. While doing so, I carefully backtracked along the tree line I already explored. In CDDA, doing this is one of the key objectives in order to survive. Mainly because you have to keep in mind a very important peculiarity of this difficulty. Every single unexplored chunk will have a group of at least 10 zombies, and you can't afford alerting them all at the same time, or else you will lose your base in the best case, while in the worst, your life. Anyway, my objective was to move to my new base everything useful I had left behind. Starting from some literature and entertainment VHS I previously ignored in the bookshelves. More literature from the bathroom and some electronics I could dismantle later. While the main reason I went back was in the cabinets. To be precise, all of the loot I left there the first day. Plus, considering I didn't have a pillow in my new base, I took the one I left on the bed. After that, backtracking my way here, I reached the safe house. First thing back home, I deposited my literature in the bookshelf. Added sheets to all the first floor windows in order to cut the zombies' line of sight. But I left the kitchen door sheet opened. Otherwise, the whole building will be dark, even during daytime. Then I went upstairs, deposited the extra sheets in the shelf, and placed my 2 pillows on the bed. Back to living room. In the drawer under the television, I placed down my cigar, a pair of earbuds, some spare writing tools, and my small VHS collection. After that, I used a plastic chair outside to rest 30 minutes from the fatigue of moving heavy load between the bases, before finally heading out to explore the area above the house. Near the tree line, I got my first kill for the day. While reaching the road, I noticed that I was constantly losing health. The reason for this was that I was starving to death. I needed to ration my food as much as I can to survive, so I ate only a quart of a granola bar just to stop the health loss. Then I had no time to properly check the mailbox and the trash can before being chased by a zombie. Despite I was armed, considering the limited amount of weapons I have, I won't use them unless I'm forced to. In fact, for now, I will keep using my feet as much as I can. After dealing with the first 2, the fight attracted more. I was able to push down the first, but the second was a stubborn one, so I bonked him with my weapon and he finally got down in time to finish the first one. Then I pushed down the last standing and finished both with my boots. Approaching the gate, I noticed 2 more emerging from the forest within. Unaware of the real count, I started backing up. Good call considering that a third and fastest one left the tree line, only to start chasing me. In fact, he was the first to meet his end, followed by the next fast one. At this point, to my knowledge, I was left only with the 2 slow one. The first was quick to die, but the second got up because I missed the shot with my metal bar. Thankfully, I had time to deal with him before another joined the fight. As soon as he was dealt with, my character was already out of breath. So I started looting my victims. The construction worker had a belt. I will need it in the future. He also had a pair of jeans in good condition. Finally, I got 1 after 100 kills. He even had for me a spare pair of great boots. To my delight, I also found a pair of knee pads. This is one of the new protective layers for legs, introduced in Build 42. That offers a whopping 30 bite and 50 scratch defense. After equipping both of them, I took another bite at my granola bars, considering I was starving again. This break was enough to recover my breath, therefore was time to keep pushing in the compound. At the gate, I defeated the next enemy. While before I was able to get inside the house, more started to pour from the forest. The first was fast, allowing me to kill him quickly. Despite the second fell from my first push, I had no time to finish him before the other 2 went for a pincer attack. While backing down, I was able to push down the first, avoiding the second that went for a bite. They were too quick getting on his feet, so I was forced to stun one of them with my weapon before backing away. Exhaustion started to kick back in. This forced me to resort to my weapon, alternated with my bare hands, in order to deal with the group as efficiently as I can. After the fight, I was pleased to find that one of them had a kitchen knife in perfect condition. After taking it, was time to find out for what I fought for. In the cabinet there was just a good book to read, while in the drawer there was a TV remote I can dismantle later. But the real reward was waiting for me in the bookshelf. A whopping 4 skill books and 2 literature. Not level 1 stuff, but I planned to survive long enough to read all of them. Plus, as a bonus, it even had an angler magazine that would come in handy when I secure a fishing spot. Next in the fridge, I found some cow's milk. To my surprise, it wasn't rotten. Plus, in the last cupboard, I even found some canned potatoes. This house loot gave me hopes for a better future, so I was glad for the trouble I went through in order to get here. After filling my pot with more water to drink, I marked this place as looted and rested on the chair, while I read a few extra pages from the Foraging Level 1 book. 40 minutes later, I was rested enough to leave the safety of this house and head back to my base. But before reaching the road, I tripped on a bush and scratched my neck. Thankfully, I kept some rags on me for this eventuality to patch myself. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, so I didn't mind for some first aid experience, despite the pain debuff to my damage. Also in the fight before, my iron pipe broke, but I still can use it as a weapon, so I equipped it on my back again. On my way back home, I noticed a group of at least 8. Initially, considering my injuries, I decided to let future me dealing with them. But the brave part of me pushed me back to seek for a fight. I was immediately rewarded by leveling my sneaking, so I took this as a sign that this fight will end well. Carefully, I approached the group until the first started going in my direction. While waiting for the fight to come to me, I moved my spare jeans in my backpack to get rid of at least the encumbrance moodle. The fact that the rest of the horde also started reacting, I decided that was wise to get a little bit more back. This allowed me to lose the aggro and deal with the fast one. Next 2 was attracted by the noise. After leading them behind the first fight location, I killed the fast one near the mailbox, followed by the 2 slow one that came one at a time. Checking the road, I spotted 6 more. One of them was already locked on me. I patiently waited for him to join the graveyard. Soon after, another reacted to the fight noise and joined the party. Next, I separated the closest one from the group of 3 left on the road. While getting closer, I was again rewarded for my determination with a level in light-footed. I know that it's getting late and the last 2 zombies seems to be asleep already. So I went closer to one of them in order to get his attention and dispose of him. Before pressing on, I ate another chunk of my granola bar to stop the health loss. In the meantime, a new Zed came from the trees. After dealing with this one, I went for the last road fight. While checking the garbage, I moved out a garbage bag. This last one was hiding a mint candy between the rest of the trash. After removing the trash from it, I took also the garbage bag. Then, as soon as I got closer to the house, another Zed came to greet me. My feet accepted the hospitality. Next, before I was able to reach the doorstep, another tenant came out of hiding, followed by a second and a third one. While inside, I found a fourth admiring the view outside. I'm always sad to deal with this peaceful kind, but I'm sure they won't hesitate to exchange my weakness with a bite. A wise man once said, "Beware of the calm, for it holds the tempest within." And who am I to disagree with the wise one? Anyway, after this touching moment, I checked the basement, but sadly it had nothing to offer. Then back upstairs in the fridge, I found just a pickle. Considering only the 6 hunger reduction, I wished I could use it as a weapon instead. Next, in one of the cupboards, I found an empty saucepan I can use to store water and cook some food, plus a mortar and pestle if I actually manage to start making medicinal herbs. Next loot was waiting in the office upstairs. To be precise, an eraser I can use to remove markers from the map. While in the bookshelves, I found some literature. While from the kids' room, I obtained a heavy socks, quite useful to fight the cold. In the bedroom drawer, I found another great piece of literature. While in the bathroom, a spare plunger, I can use it to bonk some brain dead. The last good item was an adhesive bandage, and this building was done. I was pleased with myself for today, and it was time to head home. Once there, I deposited my cooking and herb utensils in the oven, the milk and candy in the fridge, literature in the bookshelf, new spare clothes in the clothing rack, the handle and plunger in the bedroom left cabinet, medical items and electronics in the right. At this point was a good time to cut up my spare belts. You cannot do this in the dark after build 42, so I was forced to keep my torch on and use the just acquired kitchen knife for the task. Leather strips you obtain this way, beside being used for tailoring, it's also the most effective bandage you can use to fight infection and heal faster. This is why I use them to tend to my wounds. To finish the day, I needed to take my sleeping pills to fight the pain and finally get to my sweet dreams. Unfortunately, I woke up in a panic at 2 a.m. 2 hours is not enough to be in shape to face the next day, so I chugged more sleeping pills. While waiting for them to take effect, I tended to my wounds, and finally 1 hour later I was able to go to sleep again. Day 4 started by tending to my wounds using standard rags, considering that I had no more belts to tear into leather strips. After that was time to visit the trailers parked to the west. Halfway toward the road, already I had to deal with the first 3 Zeds. One of those had a new belt for me. I will use it later to craft more leather bandages. After I looted it, 2 more joined the fight. One of them had another belt and a gardening trowel. The last one is not good of a weapon, but can be used for farming in the future. The second also had a belt, but most importantly he had a beer. Hard to believe that is actually the best item I can hope to find today, considering that it will completely calm my hunger at the end of it. I guess someone heard me say beer, considering that 3 more enemies wanted to steal my new treasure. I'm not sharing it with Brain Dead. Once they were down, I obtained another belt and a mason's trowel from them. The last one will come in handy when I will decide to build some structures. But this was not the time to dream big. I had to focus and deal with the next group approaching my location. To my ability, I separated them and killed the first one before dealing with the second. For winning this fight, I was rewarded with another belt. After that, thankfully I decided to double-check the Chevalier Dart, considering that in the glove box was hiding its key. To my surprise, not only the tank was full, but also the battery was fully charged. Doesn't matter to me that is a crashed car and its conditions are really bad. This is still a huge find, considering that in CDDA, most of the car's batteries are already dead and a full tank can help cross large distances. So I carefully parked it close to the base. I will use it only in case of emergency to avoid damaging it further. For now, I can keep expanding my reach on foot. Back to the crossroad, I noticed a group of zombies too close for comfort. So I attracted them and went behind the safety of the fence. Despite the first was able to hide from my boots under a tree, I still managed to deal with him swiftly. I experienced the same issue with the second, but this time he was able to push me away. But I was able to restore my balance and deal with him before he can get up. The third one was easier to deal with. I can say the same about the fourth. For now it was the last of them. So it was time to loot. From the first I got another belt and a second beer. So far in terms of loot, this is already the best day ever. And it was only starting, considering that I saw only one enemy, standing between me and the next house I can loot. This fella even had a pair of fingerless leather gloves for me to wear. Before I can check the rest of the loot, I heard more Zeds approaching. Zooming out allowed me to understand that I was far from being safe to loot the house. To safely fight them one by one, I strafed back to the crossroad, allowing me to easily deal with the fastest one. Then I picked my next victim. I smashed his head in time to intercept the third one that was trying to grab me from behind. "Not today, Satan, I banish you from this world," I was saying while emptying his juicy brain. While waiting for the slow one to approach, I looted a belt from the last defeated enemy. After defeating the turtle on top on his friend, I was able to loot from both more belts, plus a pair of spare work boots. Soon enough, more were approaching my location, and zooming out allowed me to understand that I was actually in danger. So I backed a little bit, before dealing with the fast approaching Zed. I was found myself again in a pincer attack, but this time they were far apart enough to swiftly deal with the first, before addressing the second. I waited for the lazy one, then I added him to the corpses pile. Exhaustion was already kicking in, and there was more, waiting near the house. No time to rest, considering that dealing with the slow Zed, another one decided to give me a hug. While waiting for him, I was pleased to find a beef jerky on one of the corpses with an extra belt for me, plus another belt and boots from the second. Same loot was in another in the pile. But before I can finish looting, another zombie was already too close for comfort. Killing him definitely alerted the rest of the horde, but only 2 actually decided to approach me. One was really fast, allowing me to calmly deal with him, before the second decided to meet his demise. To recover my breath was time to loot some of them. I found more belts and boots, plus a lighter that I can use to start a fire in the future. While retreating toward my base, I noticed a truck in perfect condition on the other side of the house that we will definitely check later. While taking a breather, I decided to collect all digital watches from the previous enemies. I will need a lot of them to level up electrical skill when I will find the level 1 book, considering that I will need electrical and mechanic skills leveled up in order to hotwire cars. Therefore, earlier I start looting watches, easier I will be able to achieve my desire for a car collection. Back in my base, I deposited the boots and some clothing I collected so far in the clothing racks. In the left bedroom, cabinet the 16 belts plus the 4 digital watches looted before. While in the right, I left the lighter, the gardening trowel and the mason's trowel. While in the fridge, I put the beef jerky and the 2 beers. This was not enough to recover from my exhaustion, so I sat down in my comfy armchair and enjoyed some pages of the first volume about foraging. 40 minutes later, I was confident I had enough strength to deal with the last group near the house I wanted to loot. So I went back for another round. Strangely enough, the zombie furthest away was already locked on me as soon as I got close to the road. So I waited for him to reach me before granting him the well-deserved peace. While trying to aggro the next victim, I was surprised to see a semblance of a military backpack on one of them. He took his sweet 10 minutes to reach me, keeping me on the edge of excitement. But after dealing with him, I was immediately disappointed to find out that it was just a small backpack with a military camo skin. I took it anyway. I can use it as an extra storage container in my base. Next, while trying to wake up the 3 on the road, another fast one came by from far away. He had a belt for me in store. Considering that the rest of the group let me close to the window instead of fighting, eager to see what loot I can get from the house, I went inside. But before checking the place, first I had to deal with his owner. Despite his neutrality, I was sure it wasn't a survivor by the noises he was making. From his dead corpse, I was able to obtain another belt and a digital watch. While in the first kitchen cupboard, I found a small treasure. A can opener I will need to safely open canned food, a griddle pan I can use for cooking or as an emergency weapon, the keys of the truck outside, and even a rolling pin I can use for some of the best cooking recipes. Next, on top of the other cupboard, I found a radio I can dismantle later that I picked up. Even some canned food was waiting to be looted in the next cupboard. While in the fridge I found 2 pickles and a maple syrup. To finish, in the bedroom I found a hair dryer and some headphones I can dismantle to level up electrical. Plus some matches I can start a fire. At this point was time to check the truck I just got the keys for. To my delight, his gas tank was half full and the battery was fully charged. Plus on the seats, I found a map of Rosewood that will come in handy when I will need to explore that town. A CD player that will allow me to listen to some music and a gum as emergency food. To finish, in the trunk, it even had a jack I could use later to level up mechanics if I lay my hands on the right skill books. Considering that this bad boy of a truck was ready to roll, I deposited all of the new loot in his trunk. Then from the house, I picked up the old television and placed it in the trunk as well. The main reason for this is because televisions give a huge amount of electrical experience when dismantled, and considering that I had a working vehicle, I can bring them back to my safe house. Before I can safely start this beast engine, I had to go back to the road and clear it from the remaining Zeds. I had to almost hug the first to gain his attention. As soon as I killed him, the other finally turned around in order to check what was going on. After dealing with him, I noticed that 2 more was fast approaching from the south. Considering that I was already tired from all of the fights I had today, I didn't want to go out of breath pushing them down. Instead, I went back inside the house through the window. Considering there was a cupboard in front, they had to crawl inside using it. This also didn't give them the power to push me around if I can't hit them in time. But I was able to easily deal with the first, while the second one gave up after just 1 push, but later took several hits to the head before dying. Before leaving the house, I noticed a hairdryer I missed in the bathroom cupboard. Then once I left the building, I saw another one banging on the window. Considering that he was refusing to fall and I had to finish him up without alerting more Zeds, I decided to move back to the opposite side of the house. I dealt with this stubborn one in time before the next 2 joined the fight. Luckily, I was able to drop both of them from the first try, but both exhaustion and tiredness was impacting my ability to finish them with my boots. So it took several hits to finish them off. I had no more steam in me to fight today, so I took the belts, boots and watches from the spoils of war and I hid inside the safety of my new truck. Here I spent the next hour reading a few pages of foraging level 1. This allowed me to lose the out-of-breath moodle. After exiting the car, I have to chew on another granola bar in order to stop starvation from killing me. Then I decided to try to clear the surrounding of the next house. On the other side of the road, I met the first enemy, while seconds after another came to me from the left. It took over 4 stomps to kill the last one because of the extreme tiredness. Despite I was pushing my luck, I still decided to explore the house because it was too early to go to bed. My determination was immediately rewarded by a sealed beer I found on the ground, with a frying pan I could use later for cooking. Next, in the fridge I found a grape juice I can drink later. While in the bathroom I found some literature and an adhesive bandage. Plus another one was laying on the ground. In the bedroom I found just an empty pot. Finally, I picked up the old television before heading back to my truck. I was happy enough for today's loot, so I drove my new second car to the parking lot. Once inside, the first thing was to get rid of the television, so I placed it down in the basement. Next, I placed the new cooking utensils in the oven, the canned food, the can opener and drinks in the fridge. The second television also in the basement. While on the table, I placed the radio and using the device options, I got from it the battery I could use for my flashlight. Then I placed down the extra small backpack on the same table. Then went to the entertainment area. Equipped in my primary hand the CD player and added some headphones to its appropriate slot, only to move it in the television drawer to be used later to listen to CDs. Going upstairs, I added to my clothes collection more boots and belts collected during the day. Then hearing someone banging on one of my doors, I went downstairs. First, I grabbed a beer from the fridge, and before some relaxed time, I dealt with the troublemaker. Finally, I was safe to drink my beer in peace. This made my hunger finally go away, and as a bonus calmed the pain from my injuries. Before bedtime, I removed the bandage from my neck injury, only to find out that it was fully healed. While the starting deep wound showed no sign of improving, so I just changed the bandage. Then finally went for a well-deserved rest in my bedroom. Day 5 started by changing the bandage on my deep wound. Then I cut down 3 belts to obtain 6 leather strips. This way I can have high-quality bandages ready to be used. Then I moved in the left cabinet the rags and adhesive bandages. I won't need them anymore, considering my wide belt collection. Last day, I noticed that bushes hugely impacted my truck speed. I decided to clear out some of those. In the middle of it, I was interrupted by a zombie that heard the noise, and he approached me from the north. But his sacrifice to the cause wasn't in vain, considering he brought me a digital watch to add to my electronics collection. In exchange, I bartered some grass I cut before. Then I finished clearing the driveway, moved the car, and cleared the bushes hiding underneath. After that, I cleared also the parking and properly parked my dart in the second lot, because the first is reserved for the dead. For the truck, I decided to park it in reverse, so it's ready to roll. After that, I also cleared the gazebo area and the front entrance to make my base more presentable. After that, I dealt with another lumberjack coming from the forest. Then focused on clearing a little bit more along the tree line. Hopefully later I can fill this space with more working cars. Then I kept cleaning even the other side of the building area. Man, I just wanted a moment of peace and forget that around me there was only undead people eager to just eat my brain. I woke up from my dreams when I got a level of tracking from this activity. This is a new skill in Build 42. Considering that the tooltip says that I had to use search mode, I actually didn't understand how I was able to level it up by just removing some grass. Doesn't matter, because until I can survive what the helicopter even will put me through, nothing I do matters anyway. So I kept clearing the backyard until I had a decent clear area around the house. After that I moved back to clear the driveway, so if I need I can drive away without being slowed down if I have to flee. But unfortunately I don't have an axe to deal with the trees. So I decided to clear away around the tree line toward the crossroad. After that I went back home and brought the Z corpse I left yesterday night in the closet down to the basement. Then I went upstairs to bring down also the one I killed in my bedroom, followed by the couple that was hiding in the clothing room. All of this corpse dragging made my character exhausted, but I like to have a clear base. Next I picked up some trash from the living room and then moved it inside the pile of corpses in the parking lot. After that I changed the bandage on my groin, hoping that the leather strips would stop the infection. Next I checked the graveyard for some digital watches. Then took a well-deserved beer from the fridge and went to my reading area to spend a few hours learning foraging before the sunset. After 8 p.m. was too dark to continue, so I drank a quarter of it just to fight the pain and sleep in my bed. I woke up at 2 a.m. and decided to fast forward till 5 a.m. in order to avoid using my torch batteries. Finally, before starting my 6th day with a loot run, I changed my groin bandage. In order to collect every single useful item from each house, I decided to explore using my truck. Then, as soon as I reached the house where I found it, I had to deal with a straggler and took his belt. Seconds after another joined the fight. While dealing with him, a new group was quickly approaching. One of them was stubborn and didn't want to fall. At the end, I managed to push him down and started pushing the second. Both were too fast to get up and took several pushes and stomps before dying. This gave the time for another one to join the fight in time, but he fell after one push, allowing me to finish both of them. Before moving on, I collected the belts and digital watches from the victims. Zooming out, I noticed a really slow zombie walking in my direction. I swiftly dealt with him before going back to my truck. Once there, behind it, I noticed another Z, and after dealing with him, I was pleased to find that it had a kitchen knife for me. While double-checking the other corpses, another one came from behind the white car. As soon as I dealt with him, another one climbed over the fence to the left. But I was fast enough to stomp him before he was able to get up. From this fight, I was able to get a couple of digital watches. After that, I drove to the next crossroad. From here, I noticed a group of zombies between the one-story buildings. One of those was locked on me as soon as I left the car. But seconds after, he lost interest, forcing me to get a little bit closer to catch his attention back again. After several pushes, I was able to deal with him. The noise alerted the others, but only one decided to face me. So I showed him how cool were my boots. 3 more decided that they wanted the same treatment, but I had to back down a little bit to avoid more trouble. One by one, they dropped like flies. One of them had a pair of scissors I can use in order to rip clothes faster. I didn't have time to check the rest before another was ready to join his friends. Plus a slow one decided he don't want to be left out. As soon as I turned to the next group, they turned around in fear and started to pretend to not see me. My waiting was finally rewarded and both of them started chasing me. The furthest one started to run and was the first to die, while the other one was not that excited to meet his end. But I had to deal with him anyway. Another one watched the whole fight, doing nothing from the doorstep of his house. Only when I started to get closer he decided to flee, but was forced to turn around and fight me. After that, I looted them for any useful stuff, then moved everything in the car trunk. Before pressing on, I decided that was a good idea to read a few pages of Foraging Level 1 for 30 minutes. Then, approaching the first house, a new enemy decided to chase me, while a second one climbed through the window. The first was easy to deal with, but two more were coming from the house. Thankfully, both dropped from the first push, and I was able to one-shot the first, while the other one quickly got up and tried to grab me. Thankfully, I was able to react in time and pushed him back down in order to smash his head soon after. To the south, I noticed three more, and the first quickly reached my location only to be swiftly killed. I was able to get a belt and a digital watch from the corpses, before the next two decided to join the graveyard. One had even another belt and watch for me. Finally, I had to kill the last one before starting looting the house. First, I checked the garbage, where from a garbage bag, I was able to obtain a ratchet wrench in worn condition and a better jacket than mine in almost perfect condition. After wearing the last one, I went inside the house. In the kitchen, there was no loot to be found. While near the bed, I found a radio I picked up and a belt inside the cupboard. While from the bathroom, I was able to get a hairdryer and some bleach. After that, this house was done. Moving to the next one was uneventful, and I was able to get inside through the window. In the bedroom on the ground, I found a duffel bag. This one, compared to the small backpack I had on me, offers 4 more capacity in exchange for 5 points in encumbrance reduction. I prefer to have more space, so after moving all of my loot inside it, I equipped it on my back. After that, I picked up the television and moved it into the new bag. Plus, from the ground, I was able to obtain my first rifle, despite it was in worn condition. It still had some bullets inside. Next, in the bathroom, I was able to find the first aid volume 1 I could read later on. While from the kitchen, I got an empty bowl and some canned sardines. Back to the car, I deposited everything in the trunk. Then I drove till a car crash. As soon as I stopped, a zombie got up from the ground near the next house and started chasing me. It was an easy kill and I got a belt for my trouble. Then I approached the window of the house. It was destroyed by the zombie inside. So I taught him a lesson about private property respect by smashing his brain. Seconds after another meet the same destiny. Then another one came from the south. I met him halfway for a discussion. This action alerted another one. While strafing backwards, I was pleased to see a nimble skill level up. There were more behind, so I kept backing up till the house corner where I fought the first and then the second. I had time to loot from them another belt before the third started chasing me. I swiftly dealt with him before zooming out in order to see that there was more incoming from behind him. I dealt with the first as fast as I can, then tried to line up the other two in order to avoid being under a pincer attack. This allowed me to drop them one on top of the other. But I messed up both the metal bar attack and my positioning on top of the other. So I had to push them down again before securing the first kill with the metal bar, following by a stomp on the second. I was sure that I had to rest, so I ran inside the house and sat for a quick read of my foraging skill book. 40 minutes after, I was ready to keep going. On my way to the next house, I looted some belts and digital watches. Then, looking through the window, revealed another Zed reaching my location. As soon as he climbed over, I smashed his head. Then entering inside, I found the last tenant banging on his bedroom door. So I helped him to lay down. After that, in the bathroom, I found an adhesive bandage and some caffeine pills. I can use the last one if I will need to fight through the tiredness in case of an emergency. Next, in the kitchen I found some cinnamon and a fruit jam. After finishing looting the kitchen, a zombie decided to get inside for the dinner. But the only thing I was able to offer him is some bloody boots. Guess he was happy about it, considering his generous digital watch donation. Another wanted a bite, but had nothing to give in exchange. Then another one joined the feast from the sink window. At least he had his belt ticket and even some boots to add to my soup. Checking my surroundings, I noticed a small group outside of the window. One noticed me immediately but approached the unbroken window. so I smashed it with my pipe and helped him to get under my boots. Seconds after, another one rushed inside, and considering that I was tired, it took several hits to finish him. Then I tried to whisper to call the next one, but instead a new appeared from behind the tree line to the right, only to disappear soon after. He was locked on me already, so it took a few seconds for him to climb through the sink window. He had a good pair of boots and some fingerless gloves to loot. After that, I removed the broken glass from the sink window, then climbed through, only to be chased by a zombie hiding close to it. To avoid fighting all three at the same time, I went back to the building entrance, pushed him down before the second was on me, and positioning myself the way that he would fall on top of the other. This strategy allowed me to safely kill them both, despite it took too many stomps. One of them had an umbrella that actually, despite it quickly breaks, is powerful as a spear, so I took it. Then I reached the last one near the road, and after killing him I took his belt. Time to loot it, and another one was fast approaching. But despite my tiredness, he fell from the first push and died from the first stomp. At this point, I was on the brink of the collapse, but anyway pushed further to the next building. My determination was rewarded in front of the bathroom door, where I found a granola bar lying on the ground, followed by some literature in the bookshelf and a skill book about animal care on the ground in front of it. Plus, on top of that shelf, there was a radio I decided to take as well. To finish in the bedroom on the ground, I found a pickle. I picked it up hoping it was not used for some inappropriate activities. After that, I left the building through the bathroom window in order to safely reach the dumpster. It had only a garbage bag, but inside, to my surprise, there was a bag of wallpaper paste powder that I could use in the future when I will need to build a house. Plus, the garbage bag had a juice and some screws as a bonus. After extracting the loot, I collected the garbage bag as well. I was so close to the convenience store, but I was certain that I was in no shape to clear it right now. Therefore, using some stealth, I carefully reached the next dumpster. I thrown the garbage bag from the smaller one to the ground. Inside it, I found a high-vis that I took before throwing the skirt in the dumpster in order to take only the garbage bag. After that, I checked the zombies in the parking lot and one decided to chase me. After dealing with him, I noticed that a zombie was migrating toward my only exit, so I went back to meet him, doing so aggro a second zombie from the group. Despite I was able to push him down and stump him, he didn't die, giving space for the second to attack me. While trying to push him away, I accidentally freed the other one that swiftly got up. Considering my extreme tiredness, if I keep trying to fight them, I will exhaust myself. For this reason, I had to flee to the previous house, close the door behind me, and after breaking the glass of the window and removing the shards from the frame, I climbed through. The noise attracted another one that I had to fight. At the end of the fight, I was started to be out of breath, but the other two pursuers was already inside the house running toward my location. Luckily, one went for the intact window, while the other jumped through the broken one. It took 6 stomps to dispose of this one. Seconds after, another appeared from behind the house corner. Thankfully, this one fell on the ground immediately and took less stomps to die. After that, I waited a few moments that the last one was able to break the window and ended climbing through. This one was able to tank 3 hits. Time to deal with him, and another one jumped through the window. It took too many stomps to finish the last one, and I even gained the extreme tired moodlet. If I would keep pushing my luck in these conditions, I will die, so I decided to go back to the previous building. Good choice considering that I forgot to loot the bedroom. From its bookshelf, I got some literature, picked up the television, and from the drawer got a CD player and a t-shirt in perfect condition to add to my collection. After that, I went to my car and deposited the loot in the trunk. Then I felt safe enough to check the crashed ambulance, but it was closed, so I had to smash its passenger window. From within, I unlocked the doors and the trunk, then took a scalpel I found on the seat. While from the trunk, accessible from the driver's seat, I got some alcohol wipes, antidepressants, and some bandages. A little bit below there was an oxygen tank. That is a new item introduced with Build 42. I still didn't learn if it has any uses, so I took it. After that, I took also the painkillers, the surgical mask and the suture needle, to finish with a trauma bag. Next, I checked also the other car that had only an empty gas can to offer. Checking both vehicle gas tank, I found out that the ambulance's actually was full. So I marked the location with that icon in the map. At this point, finally, was time to drive back home. Here I took all the supplies gathered during the day from the trunk. Took the beer I started yesterday from the fridge and deposited the rest of food supplies in it. Then I decided to check the trauma bag loot. It has some alcohol wipes, adhesive bandages, surgical gloves, painkillers, sleeping pills, and even a suture needle. After that, I placed the radios on the living room table, the rifle on the opposite edge of it, and the trauma bag into its side. Then I went upstairs where in the bathroom cabinet I deposited all of the medical supplies I obtained from the ambulance. Then the boots and the new clothes in the clothing rack. The new 16 belts and the empty gas can in the left bedroom cabinet. Followed by the 7 watches in the right side. To finish the day, I drank the rest of my beer to get rid of the hunger moodle and went to bed. Despite I wanted to read the First Aid Volume 1 before tending to my deep wound, I changed my mind thinking about the helicopter event. So I took a suture needle looted yesterday from the bathroom, removed the dirty bandage from my groin and stitched the wound before bandaging it back. After that, I did a little bit of loot reorganization. The bigger change was that I moved all small electronic devices to one of the backpacks I have on the table. Plus the television I left in the car trunk down to the basement inside the metal shelf. At this point, it was time to travel back to where I ended my loot run yesterday. On my way there, I had to stop to deal with a zombie I found at the crossroad. Then, before I could start moving, another emerged from behind the white wrecked car. To have a safe way home, it was wise of me to get out and deal with this one as well. Next, carefully driving between the one-story houses and the trees grown all around the place, I reached the road leading to the convenience store. Then I stopped to bully a pedestrian near the last house looted yesterday, and I'm glad I did so considering he had some caffeine pills I could use later. Time I was done looting, another 2 was already on me. While pushing them down, another one joined the fight. Before all 3 was down, one of them already got up. So I had to spend more stamina to push him down again before I could finish the one on the ground. Time to do so, and they were on their feet, and a 3rd one was approaching, following by a 4th one as well. At this point, I was forced to resort to the use of my metal bar, alternating hits with pushes in order to prevent them to get a hold of me. Finally, one of them I pushed down, decided to become a crawler, and soon after I got my first pipe kill. Considering I was left with 2 on their feet, I started pushing them down, and to safely deal with the crawler, I smashed his head with my weapon. The kick on the 2nd didn't kill him, and another one joined the fight. So I started again using my pipe, only to see 1 knockdown and a kill immediately after. So I pushed the last 2 until I was able to kill 1 with the feet, and time I was positioned on top of the 2nd's head, I had to start pushing the last guest to this fight. Once down, I disposed of the one under my feet and had to stomp the body of the last one in order to prevent him from getting up. Then I had to push a new member of the fight club and punish them both for violating Rule 4 and 5. Once I was done, another one decided to hug me and called his 2 friends for help when he felt on the ground. I dropped the first and then moved a little bit back in order to make the 2nd land on top of the one laying on the ground, and using a body stomp secured that they stay there. All of this was taking too much stamina, so I decided to kill the one on his feet with my metal bar before finishing the last 2 with my feet. Time to finish them, and another came from the south. Finally, after dealing with him, I thought the fight was over and started looting. Little did I know that there was no time to rest, because 2 more came from the west. The first dropped on the ground after the first push, but I was not fast enough to finish him before I had to push the 2nd. Because of my extreme exhaustion, I wasn't able to finish any of them before they both were again on their feet. So I had to retreat to separate them. allowing me to drop them both on the ground. The second was too fast on getting up, so I had to alternate stomping and swinging in order to keep them both on the ground, and eventually I was able to kill both of them. Man, I had no time to think what to do next that another one came from the north. To my surprise, despite my exhaustion, I was able to drop him from the first push and kill from the second stomp. I needed to rest as soon as possible, so I decided to retreat to the previous house. On my way there, I had to defeat another enemy. Then in the bedroom, I sat on the bed and finished reading Foraging Level 1, allowing me to get rid of dead weight, leaving it in the bed drawer. Then I removed the glass shards from the window and left the building, while looting the enemies for some belts, watches and boots. I finally found a denim shirt in perfect condition. This is absurd that it took 200 kills to lay hands on one. After looting them, I reached the house and taught its owner, banging his head on the door, how he should open it. Then I smashed his head to reinforce the concept he just learned. As gratitude, he rewarded me with his Casio watch. At this point was time to get closer to the convenience store, and I noticed two separate groups roaming around. So I baited the fastest Zed from the small group to my location and dealt with him swiftly before calling the second in order to give him the same treatment. After that, I double-checked my surroundings to be sure that I can safely deal with the waiting line to the convenience store. Once I got close enough to see the reaction of a really slow zombie, I also noticed that another one emerged from the left tree line. So I backed down, trying to get closer to the last one. After dealing with him, I zoomed out and noticed that other two reacted to the noise. In order to not multiply my troubles, I decided to get back closer to the house. They were walking at a totally different pace, allowing me to easily deal with all three. One of them has a belt, watch and boots to add to my collection, plus a rare high visibility vest in almost perfect condition that offers some scratch defense. After wearing it, I went back to the dumpsters in order to get the attention of the next victim, then waited for him there in order to not mess up with my crowd control workflow. The noise alerted 3 of them. To avoid worsening my situation, I backed a little, then added them to my fresh graveyard. Next, approaching the last 3, I almost joined their chit-chat in order to force one of them to react to my presence. My boots explained him that he should not mess with his owner. Then, trying to lure the second, a new one appeared from thin air. It was exciting to see that one started to share a secret to the other, whispering in his ears. When the one listening started chasing me, allowed me to understand that the whisperer was his boss, judged by what reaction he had afterwards. Once the boss saw his employee incompetence, he decided that he can do a better job with its own hands. But seconds after regretted his poor judgment. Then I also disposed of the last member of the team and checked my surroundings. Then, out of curiosity, a traveler was going toward the fight location, only to learn the curiosity kills the cats when saw my boot landing on his face. I got the proof that it was a traveler when I found a dehydrated meat stick on him that I stole for myself. After dealing with the owner of the convenience store, finally, a few moments of peace allowed me to check the dart in the parking lot. On the first seat, I found a walkie-talkie. Great find considering that dismantling it, you gain a lot of electrical experience, without mentioning the battery inside. The last one can be used for my torch. On another seat, I found some matches, while in the glove box there was some alcohol wipes. After that was time to check the condition of the dart. They were average, but when I saw the gas tank, my mood hugely improved. But then I remembered that despite I have a gas can in my base, after build 42 you also need a rubber hose in order to siphon the fuel from the cars. With that thought in mind, I checked the trunk only to be rewarded with the item I actually wanted. After all of this trouble, I thought I could loot the store in peace. But after I approached the door to see 3 Zeds inside, I understood that I was wrong. So I opened the door to let the 2 banging on it to get out. Then, after pushing them down, I had to use the pipe to prevent one of them to get up, and with 2 stomps finished the other one. This gave the time for the first to get up, and after pushing him back on the ground, I closed the store door to avoid from being attacked from behind while finishing the troublemaker. Time to get some useful loot from those 2, Another one came from the right, and after 2 pushes, I was able to make him fall, before finishing him with my boots. While waiting for the next incoming, I checked the garbage. This allowed me to find a crowbar in worn condition inside. After taking it, I pushed on the ground the Z mentioned before. But I had no time to stomp him before a group of 3 joined the fight. Considering the amount of fights I was through today, I knew that I have a really small amount of steam in me. This is why I retreated to the closest house and climbed in through the bathroom window. This allowed me to easily deal with the first. Following him, there was another 2 climbing together. I was able to stomp only one while had to push the second back down. More was starting to pour in, and the situation became uncontrollable. So I decided to leave the house and close the door behind me. I was already out of breath and the fight just started. But instead of retreating, I positioned myself to the right corner of the window in the hopes that anyone would climb over before the door will break. But this wasn't working, so I moved to the main window instead. This made 2 climb through different windows, one of which landed under my boots. After dealing with him, I went to fight the other one. After that, I checked the loot from the one in front of the main window. Seconds after, the door was broken and they start pouring through the window. I strafed back to avoid their grabs and then finished one of them with my pipe. My timing and positioning was a little bit off because I was getting confused by the dark and the corpses pile on the ground. So I enabled my torch, and after a little bit of struggle, I finally killed one of them. But while trying to stop the second from getting up, I was pushed away by a new zombie that just climbed through the window. After pushing them both to the ground, I had to alternate stomping and swinging in order to keep them down and finish them off. Despite my exhaustion, I'm too close to the store to give up, so I moved my car closer to it, but had to stop and deal with a new enemy in the middle of the road. After baiting him away from the road, I finished him and went back inside the truck. Finally, I was able to park in reverse in the second spot, so I can easily fill up the truck with all of the loot from the store. Time to leave the car, and I had to fight another Z that came from the building. Then finally, after reaching the door, I dealt with the one I blocked behind it before. Finally, I was able to start looting. From the first 2 magazine stands, I was able to obtain some literature. Then I thrown on the ground all the rotten food from the first double fridge. Before continuing looting, I had to get out and deal with the enemy banging on the window. While doing so, I got a level in sneaking. Turning around, I saw another customer that wanted to try my specialty, some spicy bloody boots. After the customer was satisfied, I went back in and dismantled the large store fridge. Considering that it was too heavy to carry, I went back to the car and deposited all the loot inside. Then I loaded in the car trunk also the first and the second parts of the fridge. After that, another Z interrupted my loot run and I had to deal with him before getting back inside. Where in the first shelf I found some skill books and farming supplies. The second had some cooking ingredients. While from the third I took a wooden rod I can use as a weapon or crafting material. A steel wool, that is a new item in build 42 that I don't know anything about, and a similar thing I can say about the carpentry chisel. In doubts of their utility, I took them both. After that, checking the 2 small fridges, I was able to find a diet cola and lime soda. While from the next double fridge I got a water plastic bottle plus some ginger ale in a bottle and a pop can. Next in the shelf near the cashier there was some marinara, peanut butter and ranch. Plus after emptying a trash can, I decided to pick it up so I can bring one back to my base. After that, checking the next double fridge, I found a carton of orange juice and 4 more soda cans. Then from the snack vending machine I got a bag of chips, while from the pop cans one, a diet cola. After depositing all of this loot in the trunk, I went back to check the storage room as well. Here from the first fridge I got an apple juice, while from the second some cow's milk and some butter. Then from the first shelf I got an animal feed bag, the butchering level 2 skill book, an empty bucket and some seeds. More skill books and farming supplies was in the second shelf as well. From the other shelf I got another skill book, a pouch filled with different seeds types, plus a scythe and more seeds outside. plus some slug repellent as a bonus. Then I had to deal with the zombie that broke in through the window and continued to loot. From the second shelf I found the Animal Care Level 4 book, more animal feed, tools and seeds, plus a garden basket containing more seeds. Then checking the boxes, I found 2 canned food in the first, 5 bags of chips in the second, canned tuna in the third, 4 more canned food from the fourth, 5 more from the fifth, 3 from the sixth, and 1 from the seventh. The rest of the boxes were empty. After that I moved some items to the car trunk until it was full. Then I went inside and placed the rest on top of the seats. Once I was finished, it was past midnight, and I wanted to see if I can explore more tomorrow before heading back home. So I went inside the closest house and slept in its bedroom.